Now entering the squared circle pit, we have the AEW World Heavyweight Champion. He's going to be facing Mr. Brodie Lee at Double or Nothing later this month. Jon Moxley, thank you so much for entering the squared circle pit. How is life in, I assume, Las Vegas?
Well, I'm actually in Jacksonville right now.
Oh, okay.
I just came out here and brought my whole situation out here for the month for all these tapings and pay-per-view and everything. Instead of traveling back and forth. So I had to set up like a Jean-Claude Van Damme kickboxer type of gym in my little backyard outside here because obviously training and everything, gyms and training partners and all that kind of in a weird place right now. So I've constructed a strange jungle Jacksonville gym outside. That's how I'm training for the pay-per-view.
That's cool. Kind of like a Rocky style, Jean-Claude, like you were saying, Jean-Claude Van Damme style training. There needs to be some cool montages in the next few weeks.
Yeah, I'll be kicking trees and stuff.
Well, on that topic, I wanted to ask, like, was there any sort of like paranoia or like, obviously you want to go and perform, you want to do your job, but it initially required a bit of travel. Did you have to psych yourself up to get on an airplane? And like, what's the scene like at an airport nowadays?
I didn't go to the airport for this.
Oh, you drove?
I brought my dogs out and everything. Yeah, so yeah, 'cause my dog's like got a big giant fat bulldog. You can't put him on a plane. He's running around the plane like a madman. So
I see. And you're used to the long drive, so it wasn't a big deal.
Yeah, no worries.
Now I imagine, a lot of quiet time. You got to play some music or something. What were you doing on your road trip? What were you listening to? What's your typical car music, or do you listen to podcasts? How do you kill the time in the car?
Well, if I'm driving with my wife, we would usually try to, we've had quite a few long trips. One time we drove from Vegas to Birmingham in one shot before. So we'll do a lot of like podcasts, or like murder podcasts and stuff like that. Or sometimes we'll fight over the radio because she might not like some of the stuff I want to listen to, especially if I'm getting tired and I want to pump myself up, So I'll put on like the metal channel on Sirius XM, and she's like, she can't really stand too much of that, Slayer and stuff like that. But I'm like, yo, we're 300 miles in. I need some Pantera or something. You know what I mean?
I absolutely know what you mean.
But if I'm by myself,
Yeah.
if I'm by myself, I'm always jamming out to, what is it? Lithium, Turbo,
Liquid Metal is the metal
40.
Yeah.
Liquid Metal. Yeah, I usually keep right on there.
That's cool. Yeah, I wanted to know, we briefly talked at like a red carpet for one of those WWE video games a few years ago. And you told me that you grew up on like grunge, like Soundgarden, Pearl Jam, Alice in Chains, Nirvana, stuff like that, Metallica. And I wanted to know, like, did somebody like expose you to hard rock and heavy metal, or was it something you gravitated to naturally? How did you find it?
That's kind of hard. I think the first CD I ever had was probably like a Metallica CD, mostly just from like the radio, like WEBN in Cincinnati, 102.7, where I'm from, was like go-to station, and you to hear like Nirvana, Metallica, Bush, Soundgarden, stuff like that. So I grew up on all that stuff. I still love all those, the classics, never get old. I just discovered some band called Green River. Allegedly, they're like precursor to Nirvana. Not quite punk rock, but like not quite full grunge Seattle. It's like kind of in the middle. It's pretty cool, just like loud, aggressive music. I was really into it. Just reading the story, it's just kind of like this lost band in history. So I thought that was interesting.
Yeah, Green River are really fun. Good, like noisy stuff. And you mentioned that. At the time you mentioned that Deftones was your favorite band. Is that still true? Or are they still ranked high in your?
Yeah, I'd say that. I've always been a big Deftones fan. I feel like I was just kind of, if I had to pick one, I just would say like the Deftones probably.
Is there an album?
I guess their album, like around the bird.
Yeah,
the album I like stumbled across. They used to have those. I had porn back then, but they used to have this thing called remember those like places where you get CDs, where like you go in and like sell your CDs, so you'd be like used CDs,
right? Yeah,
or tapes and stuff. So they'd be like, you get a CD for like $4. I remember getting that I think I just got it because there was like a chick on the cover. I didn't even know what it was. And immediately it was like first riff, the first song, My Own Summer. It was just like, what the hell? This is intense as hell. And listened to that whole album like a million times over. just like fell in love with that band.
That's awesome. Are you someone who enjoys going to concerts and seeing bands live and getting that experience?
Yes and no. I've been to some good ones lately. Not real lately, but we saw Weezer live. Me and my wife and a couple of my friends. I get a pretty good ticket hookup in Vegas, so you can get a lot of shows for free usually. So we saw like Weezer and the Pixies.
Oh wow!
And that was really good. Really good show. We saw Misfits at MGM Grand when they did like their return tour, which my wife could only stand a little bit of. I quite enjoyed it. It was very, very, very loud, very loud. And she's like, but I really enjoyed it. Yeah. The bassist from the Misfits is like 7 foot tall in real life. It's hilarious. Comes out and he looks like a monster.
Yeah,
great shape too. Jeez, it's like Jack, dude. He's to be wrestling.
He did do a brief bit of wrestling.
Oh yeah. They did the Misfits and WCW. Yeah. Being around all those people, like a festival or something like that. That's like my nightmare. Like being around that many people and like it's not really my thing. But if it's like I got a good hookup in Vegas where we got some nice seats and we can kind of get in and out and see a good show, I'm into it.
Yeah, you're more into like 1 or 2 bands from what I gather, as opposed to like a whole day where you got to be walking around and like, you're a recognizable guy and you just want to hang out and chill and not be kind of punished. So I can understand that.
Yeah. I give it to those people who hang out at the festivals, like out in the heat all day, surrounded by like a million people. Being in a giant sea of people is like, that's like my nightmare. Not interested. I love watching concerts just like even on my phone, I'll like put on some random show or just look up whatever, so live and find it cool, like live set and just say I'm on a treadmill or something, or just like, even if we're just sitting around hanging out, like friends hanging out or whatever, put something on the TV, just like off of YouTube or whatever. And just, I always find that's a cool, like background, live music.
Yeah.
To have, it's good atmosphere.
When you check out these shows, like for example, the Misfits, I feel like there is a kind of connection to the, sort of sports entertainment kind of thing where you could kind of grab something. Like, do you ever leave a concert kind of inspired with like, oh, like we could use that, we could do that on our show?
All the time. My receptors are always open to like anything I can steal from any type of entertainment, really. Like I'll steal lines for promos like over the years from song lyrics, anything in a movie or a line or a sport or like anything I can steal from any type of genre of entertainment that I could somehow incorporate into wrestling. I'm always have my receptors out, listening for. Yeah, definitely pumps you up when you go to a big concert like that and the crowd's all loud and stuff. That's cool because like you're like, oh, hey, I get to do this for a living too. Like, 'cause especially AEW shows, are like the party atmosphere. They're like almost like rock shows themselves. All the shows on like that Jericho cruise it was basically a giant rock festival with wrestling.
Yeah,
pretty cool way to make a living.
Yeah, would you say like a WWE show would be like a pop show more, polished pop show, whereas AEW is trying to go for that grittier rock vibe?
Yeah, I think AEW is much more of a party atmosphere. Everybody's there to have a good time, and some of the just greatest fans in the world, and there's definitely a party atmosphere.
And you mentioned that, like, I feel like AEW does have a lot of diehard fans in its short existence. You guys have been officially around for a bit over a year, and I feel like it's so weird as somebody who grew up during the Monday Night War with, all these territories and all this stuff. It's weird now where there's this huge divide, I feel, where you're either a WWE guy or like an AEW guy. And like, I'm not saying this is everyone. Like I personally, I'm a wrestling fan and I just enjoy wrestling. So is it kind of weird to see like how standoffish some fans are, or is it kind of fun?
I don't really see that at all. I'm sure there's plenty of people out there that, from the get-go, just for whatever reason, didn't want AEW to succeed. And I don't understand that mentality because it's been nothing but good for the business and nothing but good for the wrestlers, nothing but good for the fans. I don't know why you'd want to pick a side necessarily. I mean, you can like one better than the other, but like when I was a kid, like when wrestling was at its hottest in like late 90s, I watched everything.
Yeah, same.
We flipped back and forth. You know, I don't remember there being like sides back then because I was just a kid. I don't know. I like wrestling. I watched ECW. I might have been a little like, I was probably like when I was a kid. I probably had a little bit of that like ECW is better than both these stupid crap, man. Yeah, ECW because you get like you'd suck you into the to the cult kind of thing. So I probably went through a period where I was like, oh, ECW's shit, man.
Right.
But
you fell for the Paul Heyman marketing.
yeah, but I watched everything. I was into Nitro, I was into Raw, and so it's just great. Fans can just flip back and forth. They have 4 shows now that they can watch. They can watch SmackDown, Raw, NXT, AEW, and there's like all this. I mean, before kind of the world changed recently, business was like as fertile as it had been in God knows how long. You can watch 4 shows I just mentioned, but you can also, there's so much indie stuff to watch that's so accessible. You don't have to like get a order form and mail
right.
order.
No tape trading, do dupes. Yeah.
Yeah. Like Greg got like the ECW merchandise catalog. It took like 2 months to get the catalog. I had to like pick which tape. I was so excited when the catalog came. Then I like pick which tape order to buy, and then you gotta like send off a money order, and then it could be like another 2 months, and then you finally get your tape. But now you can go on like they're like independent wrestling TV and high spots and all that stuff, and you can like literally watch anything, old stuff, like early indie stuff, current stuff that happened last week. And then it's just like all your fingertips, like with the technology and stuff. Now there's GCW out there, MLW, there's New Japan, Big Japan. There's just so much that's also accessible. But back in the day, you know, you just had to wait for Monday night or wait for Saturday morning or whatever. Now it's like it's so accessible. Like what a great time to be a wrestling fan, you know. I don't see whether it be any negativity in the wrestling fan world, you know.
I love that answer. That's so great. And it's so true. You just reminded me, like, at the time, I kept hearing about Hayabusa because I was such a big Sabu fan. And there was no way for me to actually see him. I had to wait a year, and like with tape trading and everything, until I got a tape of him. And even before I got the tape, by that point, he already come to America and did that ECW pay-per-view, which was like that Heat Wave, I think it was called, which is my favorite pay-per-view of the time, just because it was like, oh my God, finally, I've been hearing so much about this crazy wrestler. Whereas like now, you know, I wake up and I could watch the New Japan show that happened in the morning right away. It's mind blowing.
Yeah, you can watch it on your phone while you're driving in the car. You know?
Yeah, I was watching G1 matches doing cardio.
Yeah. Heatwave 98 from the Hare Arena, Dayton. I wanted to go to that so bad because that's only like an hour from Cincinnati. But I just had no way, and had nobody to drive me up there, no money to get in, probably if I was even there. I wanted to go so bad, and I couldn't go. But that card, top to bottom, is like, those pay-per-views are pretty cheap. I think we like pulled our money and got the pay-per-view, and I remember watching it from home, just like, oh, I wish I could be there. Cause I bet you go back and watch that whole thing, top to bottom, and it like holds up.
Absolutely,
Bam Bam Taz too, crazy. I think some kind of crazy main event. New Jack came out. I remember. Yeah, that was a top to bottom crazy card. It's funny how stuff I can remember so clearly from when I was a kid, and now I'm like, I can't remember what happened last week.
Yeah, I remember like being able to name the entire like world champion, intercontinental champion lineage, you know, and now like I could probably still do it up until like 98, and then I just don't remember, you know. But like before that, you could.
Yeah, I'm like the exact same way. I can like, because I used to try to like cobble together the history of wrestling through like magazines, or like they have that PWI almanac at the newsstand.
Yeah.
That had like all the title histories, the promotions I'd never even seen or heard of. So like, I remember like writing things down. I don't know why you do this as a kid. I don't know, but you're like, so I'm like writing down title histories and like trying to figure it out, and then trying to like go find the tapes of them, like video stores or flea markets or wherever. I scoured the globe for tapes, like anywhere I get them, and I try to like find the title changes and like try to piece it all together, and like, you know, it's magical days. And now it's all on your phone, which is even better. Yeah,
it was really fun having to seek it out.
So like I can remember like every title change up to like 98 maybe, and then it all just gets. Then title changes get more frequent, and there's more titles, and then I can't remember nothing. But I remember everything clearly, like in the 90s.
Absolutely, same way. Do you remember like do you have a first wrestling memory, like how you got into pro wrestling?
Not really. I mean, it's just as long as I can remember, it's been the thing that I liked. Like the kids who lived in an apartment below me were into wrestling, but I don't know, like as young as I can remember. As I remember, and they had a bunch of like action figures, like WWF action figures, and they had like some wrestling tapes. And I think it's probably like my first like exposure. And then we start playing wrestling, and then I start watching like Saturday morning, like Bret Hart on Saturday morning, and then playing wrestling in the streets or like the yard or outside the apartment or whatever. And like, this is how stupid we were. We were like idiot kids who like played tackle football on concrete. So like kids, like you always see like the videos of like people doing like when they did backyard wrestling, like the Hardy Boys old backyard wrestling videos, and they were smart. They like got characters. They like cut promos. They did stunts. They set up their spots. They did backyard wrestling. This is how stupid we were. We just went, okay, we're playing wrestling. Bret Hart, or I'm Bret Hart, you're Razor Ramon. Okay. And then we would like come out from like behind a bush or a dumpster and then just beat the shit out of each other. We just literally we basically just fought. We were like, okay, playing wrestling. And like, we would
just Fight Club.
Attempt to pin or submit the other. Yeah. I almost killed a kid with a Boston Crab. Oh my God. Which I learned from Earthquake. Because he did it to Hogan. I sat on this kid. I had this kid on his belly. I sat on him and grabbed his legs. I was like, yeah.
I convinced somebody to give them a surfboard, and that kid never talked to me ever again because it was so painful. I remember when I was 11. Who were your guys? Who were your favorite wrestlers as a kid?
Yeah, when I was a kid, Bret, because he was like kind of the guy. And I just still love going back and watch his matches. I love that he's a technician. Like I loved the technical wrestling, using holds and, counters and stuff. I was like always attracted to that. I was attracted to like the Iron Man match, like the endurance, like going a full hour and like all that part of it. I was really always really attracted to that part of it. Just his matches were always such great finishes and such good stories. And just, I wish if there's one guy you could bring back that like me and him in his prime and me and him prime, I think the way he puts matches together and kind of I hear him talk about it, I think like me and him would be like so perfect together, if we could transport back to like the mid 90s. But unfortunately that'll never happen. But then once I started getting the ECW, I was like, I don't know, 13, 14 years. Yeah, like around the time of like they're building up Barely Legal was when I first started getting into it. And I was hooked on that because I was like right at the right time where you're getting all rebellious and stuff. And it was like, I was so into it. And it was like, yeah. It's funny because like my friend was telling me about it. We had to watch it on this weird TV, like out of a fire escape balcony thing. So you had like any reception. And he's like, yeah, my dad was watching this other wrestling. He's like, but it's real. Like, it's real? He's like, yeah, like, this is fake, but the ECW is real. I'm like, what, really? So, like, that was, like, the hook, like, what is it? This is real? And it's obviously not. But it was a much, I might have thought that it was because it was such a grittier presentation.
Yeah, it was realer. It was more real.
I mean, this dude jumped, like, I remember the dude before I saw it, the dude being like, this dude jumped off the roof. Like, he jumped off the ceiling. And then he was talking about, like, Saturn dropping elbow. So, like, I was into all that crazy stunts. And, like, so the Sandman was my guy for reasons I can't explain now. And he was just awesome. Terrible wrestler in retrospect. But, like, dude, he's so...
I mean, that entrance. It's all that entrance. He was all in it.
Beer over his head.
Yeah.
Dude, I was like, yeah. I dressed as a Sandman for Halloween one year. I had a half a pool stick. I had, like, some kind of army pants and, like, a T-shirt. And my friend's dad drank the same kind of beer. I had like an empty beer can that I would like fill with Mountain Dew and smash over my head. And I had a black eye at the time, which actually fit perfectly because it just went with the costume. So it was a whole thing. Yeah.
That sounds like a great costume. It sounds like you were the 13-year-old spirit of Sandman, or the 15-year-old, or however you were at the time.
Yeah, basically, yeah. It's kind of funny thing about that now, because like I like to blend the purest of wrestling with like the most garbage of wrestling. Nice technique and holds and stuff, but like
Yeah. You kind of have this, maybe, I don't want to say stigma because it sounds like a negative, but you have this kind of label as a hardcore, like a brawler, let's say. But then like 2 weeks ago, you had that awesome just wrestling match with Frankie Kazarian. You know, like, oh, I like that you can adapt to the person's style who you're fighting with. Like you had that awesome match with Lance Archer at the New Japan shows, and it was like unlike any other New Japan match ever. And like I like that you kind of adjust to the surroundings and the opponent and work together to just create essentially a piece of art.
Yeah, yeah, I love that. I love that because I was like Texas Death Match, which was kind of just an idea I threw out. Like, let's call it just instead of no disqualification, let's just give it a fun name. And maybe we experimented with the. We didn't even know what the rules was going to be. We're like, I guess it could be whatever we want. So we're like looking up what an original Texas Death Match was, and has it ever been done in Japan? They're not really into the. They don't often do the 10 count thing, like a last man standing match, which is we do all the time in the U.S. So I was like, I wonder if they're going to get it. Like, I was hoping that like the fans would understand like eating the 10 count to your feet, but they instantly got it, and it made it like super dramatic. And actually, like the way their announcers are, the way they do like the counting, because they'd be like 18, 17, 15, like they're like. I was going backwards there, but they'll like make it more dramatic. So they'd be like 8, 9, 10. So like we had a couple sick false finishes in that. But even like yeah. Saying like blend in the two, like, you know, hitting a dude with a garbage can. But also one of my favorite parts of that match was like I just hit a nice little slick arm bar in there. And in Japan you can do that and it gets like a and like a nice applause. And I'm like, I like to do that from time to time, you know, blend the two.
When you had that first match, were you kind of taken aback at how different a Japanese crowd reacts to a wrestling match? Or were you like ready for it because you were studying?
Not taking it, but I've been over there quite a few times already with WWE. So I worked in Sumo Hall in the main events like 6 or 7 times already by that point.
I see.
In Sumo Hall. So like a WWE crowd in Japan at a WWE show will be a little different. Because they kind of want to act like an American audience. They want to like do the chants and stuff. Like every time we go over there, that was like WrestleMania week for me when we'd have the Japan trip every year. Because I just love wrestling in front of those fans so much. And they're like, you can like the harder you work, they appreciate it, and they appreciate like good wrestling, and you can take your time and patient and put together a good wrestling match, and kind of is different. So like I got a taste of wrestling in Japan working for WWE, and I remember thinking like years and years ago, like. And I could kind of tell, like, just the way I am, I could feel kind of a connection with the audience there. And I kind of always knew in the back of my mind, like, yeah, I think I can come back here. I kind of want to come back here. I always had it in the back of my head subconsciously that I was going to, like, return to Japan without WWE. And that subsequently did. So, yeah, so I just kind of knew what it was going to be like going in. But, yeah, I really just fit over there a lot. Pleasantly surprised with how well I fit in over there.
Yeah, and were you going to be, like, if this didn't happen, were there plans for you to keep going there and, like, coming back for, like, special shows?
Yeah, there was, I had a contract with them that ran up to Tokyo Dome, and it was, at the time, I was like, all right, well, let's see how this goes. But then I'm like, I'm always going to keep coming back here, like, as time permits and as circumstances permit and stuff. So, like, there was at least one on the schedule, but obviously the world ended, so I have no timetable for when I'll be able to actually go back there, or when it'll be legal or safe to do so, or whatever. So who knows? But eventually I will be back.
I wanted to ask, like I remember there was one weekend where you did a show, you flew back, you did a Dynamite, and then you flew and did another show, if I'm remembering this correctly. Like, one thing I always wonder with American wrestlers that go to Japan is how do you deal with the time change? Because it's like a 13-hour shift, especially having to do it twice in 1 week. Do you have a strategy? Like, how do you work it, or you just deal with it?
The run in between, like, kind of the Tokyo Dome and the Revolution pay-per-view was pretty rough. There was a few weeks there where it was like, I think I went from, I can't even remember where we were at. We had like shows in like Memphis, Arkansas,
like deep in the country,
Austin, Texas. So like random places in the U.S. So I had to go from like something along the lines of like, I went from Memphis to like Sapporo, So it's not like going from like LA to Tokyo, which is one flight.
Right.
It's like you got to go from like Memphis to Atlanta or whatever, or to Dallas or whatever. I don't know. You know, like connect from like Memphis to connect in the U.S. to go to Tokyo and then connect again to like Sapporo. So I think it was like Sapporo, then back to like Arkansas, and then back again to like Osaka, and then back again to like Austin, Texas, or something, where it was just like really insane. I think if I had the match with, when I had the match with Suzuki, I'd gone back and forth and back, and I was feeling pretty good. And it was like maybe an hour before the show, like all the jet lag of the last 2 months, like hit me all at once.
Oh, no.
Like I just was like I wasn't, it's a weird, like jet lag's hard to explain. Like, it's just like I was like, I'm awake, but I don't feel awake. Like, I'm not like tired, I'm not yawning, but like my brain is just like foggy. It's strange. When I walked out for the first 5 minutes or so of that match, I was like asleep. Like I was like so jet lagged. Then I got slapped in the face and woke right up. And then you get hit in the face, you break a sweat, you get some adrenaline flowing. Now we're good to go. But it takes a minute to kick you out of the jet lag sometimes.
Well, as someone who really enjoyed that match, I can tell you, you showed no signs of jet lag out in the arena, because that's like a feud I wanted to extend. Like, I want you guys to have like a best of 7 series, because it was such a fun match and how well your characters meshed.
Yeah, I think that was like I think from the minute I got there, that was like a dream match for people. I think almost solely based on our personalities, something about it, just because I can't really put it into words, but something about us just like we're like peanut butter and jelly, dude.
Yeah, it was great. And you have a pretty cool match coming up at Double or Nothing as we wind down here. You're facing Mr. Brodie Lee. And, you know, I feel like with the last pay-per-view main event, you were facing Jericho, and he was kind of the bigger star of the match. Whereas here, I feel like you're almost the anchor, and Brodie Lee's like the new star AEW's trying to establish. Do you feel like a pressure to deliver? Like, you guys, there's been some like, oh, is this a main event worthy match? You know, like kind of stuff like that. But like, are you ready to deliver 100% and like taking the challenge on full on?
Oh, 100%. Cool thing is it's like, it's kind of a cool story. And obviously all the storylines, all the plans, everything got screwed up. We would have had a nice 2-month build to Double or Nothing, but everything got all wacky. So it's like, you got to throw somebody in a short notice kind of thing. And he's like top of the food chain level guy. Like, he's been like in the top mix in WWE and Dragon Gate and Ring of Honor, like performing at a super high level for a long time. And everybody knows he's like a badass in the ring. He can fly, he can brawl, he can wrestle, he can literally do it all. He's violent. And it's kind of a cool story from like his perspective as like a dude who everybody knows has been in the background of other like groups and stuff over the years, but everyone knows how much he deserves and what he's capable of. And the world goes into chaos, and somebody has to step up. And he didn't have to be here. Nobody at AEW has to be here right now. I know he had the opportunity to either stay at home and wait until crowds come back, because he's never got to wrestle in front of people for AEW. So he could stay at home and wait until his empty arena stuff's over and then debut properly, or he could jump at the opportunity now, and he did. So from one point of view, he's almost kind of the sentimental favorite kind of thing. Like, what a great story. This guy could come in here and shock the world on 3 weeks' notice. Problem is, you got to beat me, and that's a whole can of worms.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to it. And I feel like, you know, so far, I don't think you've had a bad match yet in AEW, and it's been exciting. And it's just fun to have something to look forward to as well. I feel, you know, it's a good distraction. You guys, I feel like of the shows, AEW feels like the most lively. You know, you have a few people around the perimeter of the ring, and it feels the closest to how it was before, you know, the world just went down.
Yeah, I think it definitely, having the 10 people in the audience or whatever just makes it 1,000 times better.
Yeah. I think the main story to come out of these shows is how vital the crowd is to a wrestler, like how it completely changes it when you take out the crowd, and how absolutely necessary they are, which I feel like everyone always kind of knew, but this just cemented, you know?
Yeah, it's almost like, you know, I mean, wrestling started from the carnivals, people trying to con the audience out of money. All right, so if there's no audience, what are we doing? Well, we're just two dudes in here beating each other up, you know. So it's different now. Now we're working for the cameras, and I don't know. It's a whole lot of questions, and but hopefully we get back to normal sooner rather than later.
Well, one last question before I let you go, and thank you so much for being so generous with your time. This week, Becky Lynch announced that her and Seth Rollins are expecting a baby, and Roman Reigns just had twins. Are you getting any pressure now? Like, are people like looking at you like, hey, only Shield member without children? Or are you and Renee, have you guys like, do you have a plan and you're not going to be pressured into any sort of expanding of the family?
Oh, I don't feel no pressure, baby. My life is my life. Lives are our life. But good for them. Happy for them. Very cool.
Cool. Well, I really appreciate it. I really look forward to watching AEW every week on TNT, AEW Dynamite on Wednesdays. I look forward to seeing you and Mr. Brodie Lee on May 23rd at Double or Nothing. Thank you so much for your time, Jon. I hope you have a great rest of the day.
I'm telling you, man, rock and roll.